We're going to go ahead and kick off this week's AMA. Uh, well, Dreamer is going to be here to tell you himself that he is back connected, but while everything was disconnected, his Discord got signed out of every device that he had, and so he's trying to get back into Discord. If he can, he'll be joining us. But he is doing better, has power, has internet. Has been working. So hopefully we will see him hop in here shortly. But for now, we will go ahead and begin. With that, I will also note that, as you probably see, we do not have Beetle Dude with us this week. He is head down coding as fast and furiously as he can. So he is going to take this week off from the AMA in order to keep coding. So basically, we just didn't unchain him from the desk this week, and therefore he's still working. But
in that cave.
What was that?
Keep him in the cave.
Yes.
You mean he didn't want to come here and get like 8 more things to add to his list?
Oh, he's still getting them added to his list. He'll find out when he looks at his list. Yes, never fear. The never-ending list of Beetle Dude will continue to grow. But yeah, so we are gonna go ahead and jump into some questions. So, the first question is, now that the multi-level has been delivered, what is the next large quality of life upgrade on the docket?
Yeah, I'll take this in lieu of Beetle. So, I mean, there may be some other small things that we do in the meantime, but I think the biggest quality of life thing that we're going to be focusing on down the road is being able to group heroes and have like account level groupings kind of saved. So when you log in, you'll be able to see, okay, this is my mining group 1, 2, 3. Here's my combat group, and being able to tag your heroes in different ways and be able to filter for them. So that has been something that's been on our list for a while, and as we're getting closer to working on travel, I think it's going to be more important than ever. So I do see that being something that's coming up pretty soon, relatively to our when we say soon.
At some point in the nearer future than other things that are also in the future are.
Exactly.
Let's see. Our second question. Thoughts about bringing back the wishing well?
Yeah, I mean, if the idea is just to be able to get more access to Gaia's tiers, I think likely not going to do something along those lines, though I'll mention that like Void Hunts do have potential to drop more Gaia's tiers than other quests do. So there will be a little bit more access available, but yeah, I don't think we're going to prioritize the Wishing Well anytime in the near future.
Sounds like a plan to me. It looks like Dreamer is potentially en route, so I'm going to hold the next question until he gets here and skip over one. So the following question was, do we have a timeline for Halliday implementation? Obviously, we do not have Beetle Dude here with us this week, as well as Typical, who has also been hard at work on that as well. So I will say things are definitely progressing nicely, and we are getting pretty close to having everything ironed out, but we are not fully there yet. And obviously we want to make sure that when it launches, everything is working properly, because that's the whole point of Halliday. So things are progressing nicely. We are looking at getting it out, in the shorter term, but no exact timeline just yet as we work through the last of the kinks Hello, Dreamer.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Kind of got logged out on everything. Took a second to figure out how to get back in, but be back.
We did go ahead and snag a couple questions, but I was planning on starting out with you anyway. Would you like to say anything now that you have returned? Welcome back. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to be back. It was involuntary kind of leave of absence, so to speak. If folks are familiar with what was going on Maui and Lahaina, that tragedy definitely was right in the thick of that, and working through all of the fallout through it. So a lot of time without power, access to supplies, questionable water, a little bit of civil unrest, and just a lot of tragedy, a lot of loss. Working through that, trying to stay focused, and got power restored and a lot of other things, quality of life improved the last week or so. So able to get back at it. So sorry for being gone. Did try to stay connected as much as I could while focusing on just like normal surviving, working through tragedy things. And happy to be back.
I think that definitely counts as an excused absence. I think that's a pretty good reason. So we are glad to have you back, though, and not to turn around and just immediately put you on the spot, but also to turn around and immediately put you on the spot. I thought this might be one that you would want to speak to, or at least kick it off. One of the AMA questions: what is the plan now in regards to Clayton, with the first proposal being officially rejected from the Governance Council?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that maybe a few people might sound off on. So the intent with our efforts the last, I guess, couple of months now, we might have only seen the proposal, but the team has been working with Clayton Foundation and others in the ecosystem in preparation for this, not only related to this proposal, but other things that the foundation does have control over that they can work with us on. Clayton has gone through a lot of changes since we made the decision to move there. A lot of changes structurally on their side, resulting in a foundation that is really governed by their validators. I think their governance council, GC is what they call them. They're the ones that actually voted. So there's not a lot they can do outside of their like immediate scope, and any other requests have to be reviewed and approved by this governance council. To my understanding, I think this was the first like external proposal that the foundation itself didn't put forward. So we were expecting it to have a lot of scrutiny, and we were also expecting to potentially have multiple phases of this. Phase one was identifying the value add of DFK, which I think came across very clear on Clayton. With the majority, I think over 50% of gas being used is through DeFi kingdoms. I think everybody does see that and values us on the chain. Second was, in this market and in this focus of adding features to that chain, things cost money. We want to know how to prioritize things, and we're trying to work through an incentive program to get major features that we'll be developing to be supported there in a way that's optimal for all users and an improvement of like quality of life from today. The first proposal wasn't approved, but it's hard to know immediately which pieces were the main driver. We have a hunch on which maybe could be adjusted and get approved, but as a next step, we are syncing up with the foundation and others in their ecosystem to see if we can say, I guess group by group, what would we need to adjust or change or include that wasn't, in order to have each voting member pass it. Or if it's an outright like, this type of proposal isn't supported, it's the first one we reviewed, and maybe we don't want to really review anything outside of the foundation. We can't control what they're going to want to do. We can only continue to work with them on next steps. So syncing up with them more officially to get very clear feedback on this proposal on what could be a passing proposal is our next step. But separate from that, there are things within the foundation's power that we would like to see movement on. The aiding on gas, for example, whether that's a rebate or some other program, we do think there is some wiggle room there for the foundation outside of a vote that we would like to see some traction on. I think some performance pieces, potentially looking at ways to allow our contracts to have a little bit looser requirements is another thing that they can work with us on. And then overall support with marketing and user acquisition. So we're going to stay determined on that as well and report back to the group. Pause for anybody else that wants to speak on next steps with Clayton.
I'll just add a few thoughts that, our team spent a lot of time with the Clayton Foundation, sort of going back and forth on what things they might be looking for and how to best craft that proposal. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Mr. Zipper and over to Bolon, who spearheaded most of that proposal. There's a lot of work put in there, and it's very professionally done. So I'm really proud of all the work that was put into that. But yeah, it's one of those things where it was the first one ever done. There's a new way of doing things there, and so we're sort of pioneering that. And so yeah, I'm optimistic for all of the other things that we could potentially do as well. And there's a lot of them that we've already discussed with the Clayton Foundation around how we can specifically improve the user experience for our users, because the end goal is to basically make sure that each and every one of our realms has a very good, very strong use case, and it's very, very healthy for our players to play there. And so basically improving those things are high on our priority lists there. So that's really what it's about.
Awesome. Very much appreciate the insight, gentlemen. All right, let's see. So switching gears, this looks like a good Beetledude task item, but if anybody has any thoughts on it, with PvE around the corner, can we see a sort by health and a sort by mana option in the Heroes tab?
Add it to the list.
To the list it goes. Let's see. Any thoughts on the timeline for expeditions?
So I'll say after Void Hunts. It is our next big priority, and we are working on it right now in tandem with what we're doing with Void Hunts as well. But yeah, so after that, as far as how soon after, it's a little hard to say.
Thank you. Thoughts on probably another another list item. Thoughts on having an indicator on pets, perhaps in the info area, that tells you if the appearance is a rare or ultra rare, or not.
Yeah, I think that is something that we could do. I think we could put it on Beato's list as well. But it may have there may be a little bit of nuances with there just with how he set it up. It's a little bit more of a manual process, but I don't think it would be that hard to do.
Awesome. Let's see. Where'd it go? There it is. Thoughts on adding? I think we've got another one for the list. This is a big week for the list. It's a popular item today. Thoughts on adding a sell item button to the top of the click menu for items in the inventory. So currently we have add token, send item, and bridge item. Adding a sell item that links directly to the bazaar with that item pre-selected.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think there's that and a few other things we've been talking about doing as well, just to make it easier to buy and sell resources that you need from other menus. So I think this kind of ties into that pretty well. Something that we're definitely looking at, and something that definitely it should be on Beetle's list already. If not, we'll be adding it.
I love it. Let's see. Question. Thoughts on auditing and contracts. Matt, Fox. There you go, Fox.
I was waiting to see if Madness wanted to bite that one, but I like audits too. So we have hundreds of smart contracts, and most of them are sort of low risk. So we want to basically look at our contracts, look at what the risk is for each of those contracts. And the way that we determine that is sort of like what kinds of assets might that contract be holding, what kind of access could that contract have to do other things, etc. And we definitely prioritize them like that. So, for example, like a lot of our contracts that hold values have actually been audited from other protocols that we've inherited from without really changing a ton there. Like, for example, the DEX. And I think also like the old bank, the Sigil stuff was based off of other protocols as well. We do need to probably get an up-to-date audit on that one. I think that's on our list. But it was also updated to use the Diamond standard. And so that's another thing that we sort of look at is the audit strategy for upgradable contracts is a little different because you can get an audit and sort of have that be something that is a really good sanity check, but also you need to figure out a good protection for having upgradable contracts. So currently we use like multi-sigs for everything. Anything that is upgraded has to go through that. So it needs like multiple sign off on that. And that's a process that we're always looking to improve as well and add additional layers of security. So like we might look at doing time lock things in the future as well. That's another one that's been on my list. We have audits for like the Bazaar as well. That was another one that holds value. So that's sort of our strategy. And I think we do want to always continue to have audits for things that are going to be holding more value and also get periodic re-audits, I think might be good as well. So that's just my thoughts about it. I do want to push that more heavily. And I think actually we have some things we might be updating in the docs soon. I know that Bolon was gathering some info about that a while back. So, yep. Any thoughts from you, Magnus or Bolon?
Yeah, for sure. So just general point on audits, I think it's absolutely critical in this stage of Web3. I guess like Web2, the security landscape is very well understood, and so they're just very well defined best practices. But Web3 is moving so quickly. Like we've got upgradable contracts, diamonds. Most places are still like really confident around non-upgradable contracts, but I think the processes are still being defined for newer things. And then of course you guys see the news. There's always hacks going on, so the more we can do to mitigate that, the better. We've got like internal, like Fox mentioned, multi-sigs processes around that, as well as we do like security reviews between Fox, Hubert, and I, always checking for those issues primarily, in addition to, of course, the core things that make the game work. But I'm always kind of a very strong proponent of auditing as often as we can. Of course, there are it takes time to audit things, and we have to work with external third parties on that. So we try to really hit those like high value ones first, as Fox mentioned. But ideally, I would like to have our entire code base audited at some point. It is tricky because it's kind of a moving target. That most auditing firms work by they'll kind of lock it down to a specific hash, and if you change one character in the contract, it changes that hash, and so the audit's like technically invalidated. And we're constantly writing code every day and pushing updates weekly or bi-weekly usually. So it's kind of an ongoing challenge, but yeah, definitely a high priority on our list for sure, and something I'm very passionate about and think is necessary in the Web3 landscape as it exists today.
Very nice. I appreciate the input from both of you who are smarter than I am. I will add to Fox's note. Yes, right now we have an audit section in the white paper that covers like our original audits, but we will be adding in some of the other ones as well, just so that they're available and visible for folks. And let's see. I know hero tagging is on the list of never-ending things, which we actually talked about a little bit earlier with Hubert. Follow-up question to that, would adding custom text tags be in the cards and being able to search by those tags?
So I would need Beetle to confirm this, but it sounds like it should be possible. And probably something that we'd want to do. But I just can't. I don't feel confident confirming that without him. He should be the one to do it. So add it to the list.
Speaking of the list, another one for it, but any thoughts on adding a function to be able to search by more than one hero or pet ID at a time, separated by commas or semicolons or whatever we so chose?
To the list.
To the list it goes. Let's see. Any chance for a community hackathon? We have some talented devs in the community. That is definitely true. Maybe the team could present some of the never-ending list, and the community could attempt to solve or write code for them to contribute and help out. Thoughts on that? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of hackathons. They're fun to do, and a lot of cool things can come out of it. I just like the idea of sort of like time boxing something and maybe like putting together a team from other people that want to sit down and do some coding and eat some pizza and drink some Mountain Dew or whatever and stay up all night. I think it's fun, and I've participated in a lot of them over the years. I think it would be really interesting if we could say like, let's host an event or something and have sort of like here's the category of things we want to try to encourage, and then at the end maybe have like some kind of a way to like have the community vote on like which tool they like best or something, and then have whoever wins get a prize. I think that'd be really fun. I think one thing that I want to caution about though is a lot of the things on our list, which is never ending because there's just so much to do. A lot of those things are actually very like it's like very much embedded into our current code base, which is not open, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. But basically, those ones would be hard to actually tackle from a community perspective because they would have to have all the context of all the rest of our system to really be able to get started on it. So I wonder if it would be better to try to target like sort of like third-party type things, whether it's tools or like mini games or something that you could do with assets that are already here. I think there's a ton in the Web3 space. There's so many opportunities to sort of like build off of what's already there, and I think that'd be amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to take a minute and give a shout out to everybody that we have in the community that is building stuff. So we've got phenomenal tools listed in the Archivist. We also have fantastic content creators and others in the Artist who are also always creating new things. And then I know ADFK is working on some stuff as well. So massive shout out to those that are currently building already, building and creating. But I do think it's pretty interesting, and somebody mentioned it in chat too, and we actually had very briefly talked about this, was potentially having like a list of things that we think would be cool to see. And so it's more of like a shopping list for those who do want to build. They can go and look to get some ideas, and we could even potentially open that up, maybe use the Rapidar site. we could open that up so that the community can also chime in. And that way, if you have an idea of something you want to see, a tool that would be really useful, or an idea for a game, I'll keep plugging that I really want to see a Pokemon Snap game with our pets, because nobody's made it yet, so I'm just going to keep talking about it. But if you have an idea but you're not a dev, you can add it to that list. And if you are a dev and you want to build something because it looks like fun, you can go and look at that list and maybe get some ideas, see what people are wanting to see, that kind of thing. So I think there is some potential there as well. All right, let's see. Another one for the list. Adding icons to the drop-down menu that correspond to each zone. I also really like that idea, and it will be going on Beetledude's list. For those trying to get context, similar to like the new buy tokens option has a little crystal icon next to it. So doing icons on each one, kind of like the channels in Discord, all have emojis on them. Let's see here. Well, we don't have second best dad, so I'm going to give this one to Hubert. Any chance of voiceover on NPCs in the future?
Well, since SPD's not here, we'll just have to make him do the whole entire voiceover. But yeah, I guess in if we're talking like actual people doing voiceovers rather than, I guess, AI, probably that would be something that would be very far down the road if we did it. But I guess there are already options for doing like AI or just, like screen reader type things, but I'm sure that's not what people are asking for. But maybe sometime way down the road.
It's a little further down the list, but yeah. All right, let's see. Question for the Frisky Fox. Have you thought about dual expeditions where a player can duel passively?
Yes, in a roundabout way. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. Just trying to have newer ways to improve the quality of life for duels, and that originally was very similar to an expedition style where you would say, I want this team to duel 100 times or something, and it would essentially like stick that into the system, and then you'd have to basically do all the paying for it up front and everything, and then it could sort of like just automatically duel and create its own duels when things are happening. And that actually turned into the system that I think we introduced maybe in season 3. I don't know if it was 3 or 4. That allowed you to do like multiple entries when you were adding, and there were some limits we hit there for gas and things on, like for example on like Clayton. I think it's lower than DFK chain, but it did improve the quality of life a ton, and I saw a huge uptick in the amount of duels that were being fought because of that. So I think it's definitely something that we might revisit, to have an option to just sort of say like, I want this team to auto renew all the time, and that could be something that we look at.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. Let's see. This one is semi a Beetledude list, but also I believe would involve some Solidity as well. Any chance we could get the ability to sell multiple heroes at once, similar to multi-leveling?
From the Solidity side, we had the endpoints for like multi-leveling out fairly early on when it was an idea first, because it was, I mean, it's not super hard to add like a multi endpoint. And then it's just like the hard part is actually creating a good UI for that in the front end. And it was actually, I think, like Mr. Zipper who eventually was like, hold my beer, and he went and did that, and that was awesome. So for taverns doing a multi-sell, I think it should be possible without a ton of effort from our side, but it's going to depend on like the front end for what the user interface is going to look like for that. And then also just sort of like weighing that effort against the other things that we're doing as well, of course. So yeah, I think it is possible to do. We'll see.
Awesome. Let's see. I believe we touched on this a little bit last week, but let's. Oh, actually, nope. There's a second part that I don't think we touched on. So, the difficulty scaling for the boar hunt, based on the average level of the squad with a minimum difficulty of a average of 10. How is this being rounded, or is it being rounded? So if you had like an 11, 10, 10 squad, what would that look like?
Well, I guess it depends on how evil I want to be. I think as far as what Beatles programmed, I'm not actually positive how he did that. If that's in at this point, I would probably say that we should be rounding up, just to keep the difficulty curve on the more difficult side than easy side. But yeah, I'll have to talk with Beetle and see what he has set up. But if it were just me, I'd probably be mean and round up on you guys.
I support the rounding up. Let's see. Any possibility of future hunts to include scaling and difficulty levels, such as medium, harder, hell, and insane? I also like those names.
That's a good idea. I think. Let's see. I mean, we could have the same hunt be that way. We may also just have hunts. I think kind of the way I was thinking before was to do. Some hunts are just much more difficult than others and have better loot. I mean, we could do the same hunt and have better loot drops if you increase the difficulty as well as another option. So we haven't like made, we have a lot of options on the table right now. We haven't solidified the future of hunts all the way, and are open to good ideas like that. So definitely going to be thinking about that going forward.
Very nice. Yeah, very excited for the future of hunts. Let's see, another combat-related question. Actually, a couple questions. How will Dex influence magical attacks?
So Dex is used as a component of accuracy for both physical and magical attacks. It's less important on magical attacks, but it's about your accuracy is kind of calculated about 40% Dex and 60% Wisdom. So if you have really low Dex but really high Wisdom, you may be able to compensate for the lack of Dex. But it is a contributing factor and something that, as we're kind of assigning accuracy levels for specific weapons, we're looking at both of those stats when kind of setting the middle ground.
Awesome. Let's see. How will explosion work? Would each enemy be checked for damage or one roll for all of them?
Let me look at specific skills without telling me in advance. I would have to look. I think in general, though, with damage and whatnot, we usually do one at a time with damage and status effects. I think there's a few that are different, where like the damage is calculated once, and then it's just checked against the defense of the heroes. So kind of depends. And without me going and checking how he wrote that, it's hard for me to say exactly. But more often than not, it's the former case where each target gets a different set of rolls.
Very nice. Yeah, sorry, I didn't give you a heads up on that specific one. My fault. Shifting topics a little bit. Can you share some thoughts on ticket raffle rewards and our intent to do updates, which we actually talked a little bit about 2 weeks ago, I think. I don't know. Time doesn't exist. So thoughts on the raffle rewards currently?
I guess I'll jump in on this. Yeah, I know there's been some sentiment in the community that I think the fastest raffle is too fast, things like that. So we have been kind of talking about making adjustments, and I believe our intent there was to include a community vote with that, if I remember correctly, Bolon. But yeah, we're still kind of in the process of talking about that topic and working through it with the tokenomics committee.
Yes. Yeah, we were talking about potentially putting up a vote for if we wanted to, or if the community wanted to see minis removed. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, it's still progressing, but we are working on a revamp there. All right, a very like open question, so feel free to take it whatever direction you would like. Uh, Boar hunting will be an excellent way for the community to try out the combat system. More broadly, how will these PvE events fit into the DFK universe and map? Will they be spread out and, potentially dynamic, for example? Actually, let's start with that one.
Okay. Yeah. So void hunts are going to continue to be a thing within the game. Our plan is to have, as we go forward, we'll be creating new hunts and having, some that are, available for everybody all at once. Others that kind of come into a rotation based on certain things that happen. And once we do have travel in place, we do also intend for the heroes to have to travel to the location of the hunt to be able to perform it. So that will also be a thing. Um, really, there's quite a few options available to us as we start to expand out to have very rare hunts that are triggered by meeting certain conditions and things like that. Um, and also, we do plan to have, I guess, don't know that we've really talked to the functionality of void shards so much at this point, but void shards, the intent with those is that they will be consumed to unlock specific void hunts. So generally they'll be much harder fights and with better loot, and so and with that, void shards are going to be soulbound. So in order to even be able to do those hunts, you'll have to have spent the time to collect those shards first. So very strongly incentivizing gameplay and rewarding the player who did the work to get those shards.
Very nice. Second part of that question, how exactly will heroes interact with them? If an event is farther away, will it take longer to get there? So kind of travel related.
Sorry, could you say that one more time? I was distracted by that, seeing the void face.
It is a distracting image. How exactly will heroes interact with them? If an event is far away, will it take longer for the hero to get there?
So the travel system itself will be its own independent system. So, like there being a hunt at a location or not wouldn't really change how much time it would take. But then the player would have options as far as like renting mounts, or just traveling on foot. And if they have any other bonuses that improve their travel time, it's all going to be kind of dependent on those things.
And one last, and this one is very open-ended. What is your vision of PvE in the DFK universe? Is there a narrative, for example? I'll just add my response in chat was that the narrative is all heroes must die. But what are your thoughts on that front?
Burn them all. Yeah. So I do expect that we will have narratives tied to components of PvE. I think we will also have kind of more generic PvE that isn't necessarily required to have narrative attached to it, such as just random battles and things like that. So it's something that will be evolving over time as we develop. Even just the void hunt in general is introducing the concept of the void, which is a kind of overarching sense of source of evil in the universe of DeFi kingdoms. So we are kind of subtly introducing story components as we go in that way.
Awesome. Yeah, very excited to see that universe keep being built out. Let's see. One thing we did talk about last week, but will there be any use of potions in the boar hunt? Not in the first iteration. Hubert, if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
Nope, that's right. Yeah, once we do introduce potions, we'll likely have the boar hunt be unavailable for a period of time, and then when it comes back, it would likely be more difficult than before, just to kind of account for the additional systems and balancing around their existence.
Nice. Let's see. Does luck play? This is a very open-ended one, but let's see what we can get. Does luck play a role in more places than we might think? In other words, beyond what is publicly documented.
There might be something down the pike that we might add, but at the moment, it's generally used in the way we've described, with either applying to skills, applying to critical hits, applying to really a lot of the different things that involve randomness. There's usually a luck modifier in there. Especially like rare drops also do get a luck modifier applied to them. So that's kind of generally been the thing. Though there's been another system we've kind of discussed in the past that we haven't finalized that may also include luck in it.
Very nice. Let's see. This one would be a Beetle Dude question that I think would actually be good to ask him before it goes on the list. So I'm going to hold that over for next week. And that way we can get his inputs. Let's see. Would we consider doing an early release of the yellow egg hatching, even if it's only with, part of the expected pets involved, so that we can also have level 10 quests, as miners are currently getting less XP than others?
Yeah, I do understand how not having that does kind of make the current questing system a little lopsided, and that's unfortunate with our kind of development cycle that it has to be that way. I don't know that I like the idea of like using partially completed pet lists to allow us to get that out sooner. We are our resources are very tied up right now in void hunts and also with expeditions at the moment. So like even if we did that, there's still a lot of work to go in upgrading the quest contracts and whatnot. So I don't think we'll be going down that road, and I recognize the imbalance there, and unfortunately we'll just have to ask you guys to bear with us as we get through each of the features we're working on.
Most definitely. All right. We're going to snag one more question and then we will kick off our wrap up for this week. As always, if you submitted a question and we have not gotten to it, we will next week. But one last question. So it is about it's an idea for a burn mechanic, but curious to get feedback on it. Actually, it's two questions, but the first one. So thoughts on a burn mechanic, whether now or in the future, that has basically you burn one hero to pass its experience to a second hero, but it also costs the second hero that receives the experience one of their available summons.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Not one that we've really talked about thus far in terms of kind of the the burn mechanics that we have been discussing, which I think we've mentioned before that we are discussing various burn mechanics for heroes. That's one to, I guess, add to the list of considerations. I don't think it's a bad idea per se, but we may also go a different route than that.
Fair enough. I am going to snag the second part of that one real quick, just so that it's easier for next week. Thoughts on having a leveling up season within the meditation circle? So having like a leaderboard, basically, that ranks players on the total number of level ups and cumulative level up per wallet, as well as like the number of points gained from each level up, and then having winners of each season based on that level, that leaderboard.
That is another interesting idea. We haven't really talked about something like that, but I do think just kind of looking at how this leveling event has what it's done for the economy, I think has been a good thing. So I do see value in adding something of that nature potentially. But yeah, I think we have more things to come. So I guess stay tuned on kind of some of the things we've been planning with leveling up and whatnot. I think there's some exciting things coming down the pike after expeditions. So,
Which is after boar hunts.
after boar
All right. So yeah, we are going to go ahead and start our wrap up. Like I said, any questions we didn't get to, we will get to at the beginning of next week. For myself, I just want to say, as always, don't ape into broken mechanics, and thank you everyone who takes the time to listen to our AMAs, submit questions for them, hop on stage and answer questions for us. Outside of that, I'll just say that it is always a good time to be in the kingdoms. Obviously, our 2-year birthday was last week, and we talked about it last AMA. But it just was a great reminder of everything that has been done so far and everything left to do, and how absolutely amazing of a community we have, which is something we're very fortunate for. So with that, let's do some final thoughts. Let's see. We haven't heard from Magnus in a few minutes. Magnus, any final thoughts?
Nothing too much to add this week. I'll spare everybody the I'm excited about the future thing that I usually say.
Boo. Let's see. Dreamer, final thoughts?
So Magnus isn't excited about the future? I feel like we have to hear it.
I agree.
Yep. I'll go and say it. Yep. I was trying to find a good word besides excited and stoked. I'll just say I'm thrilled for everything that's coming. I guess I don't want to exactly echo what I said last week, but the contracts I'm working on now with void hunts and equipment is just really cool. Like it's very like core game features that like of course we have like questing and heroes and things like that, but this really to me kind of sets in motion a lot of cool things for the future. So just very thrilled about just the opportunity to get to work on something cool in the Web3 space, such as these two particular items.
Nice. We love hearing your excitement, Magnus, because you're always cooking up some awesome things that nobody else is really able to tackle like you. So we're excited for your awesome work too. I'm happy to be back. I kind of tried to not go into too much detail at the start to not allow this AMA to be a major downer. But some people have asked, is there a way for people to have some guidance on how to help folks in Lahaina? I might do a little post on Twitter or something to not blur the lines here. If the AMA is meant to be for the progress of DeFi kingdoms and everything. So I appreciate the interest there. Just for those that may not be aware, it's a pretty epic event. Over 2,000 acres burned, over 2,000 structures burned, hundreds of people still missing, and the deadliest fire in U.S. history, as I understand it. So it's a pretty big deal. It's also to many seemed quite avoidable if the steps along the way were taken. So it's probably going to get pretty ugly after this as well. There's a lot of people scared, a lot of people hurting. And during the last couple of weeks, it was very much for those that were here, kind of like The Last of Us. I started my day waking up, figuring out how I'm going to get supplies and stay safe and avoid looters and squatters and watch for fire flare-ups, since I was in an evacuation zone where I refused evacuation to keep, house and property safe. So imagine we'll talk about this more, maybe outside of this forum. So didn't want to make light of it, but also didn't want to, hijack this time that was really meant for DeFi Kingdom. So for anybody that has other questions or things how to help, I'll try to post those in my on personal Twitter or something, and just appreciate the interest and everything. The economy of Hawaii is definitely hurting a lot, especially on Maui. So for those that have seen things like "Don't come to Maui," and then immediately after, people are like, "Oh wait, everybody's losing their jobs. Please come." It's going to be quite a roller coaster. So definitely, people need prayers. They need support. They need overall interest on what happened and to improve it from here. So thanks for letting me share a little bit about that, and really appreciate all the support that might come down the road. But in terms of everything that was released and celebrated in the last couple of weeks, my mind is pretty much blown on what we continue to be able to put out and how exciting it is to see the community appreciate it. Folks like Magnus, Hubert, Fox up here building incredible things, and others that are working hard as we speak that aren't on here. Just grateful for all of them and happy to be among many that are cheering on incredible builders and others that are going out there to try to sell and market and make it look and feel beautiful. So very bullish, and over to you, Bolon or Fox, whoever's next.
I'll go next. Yeah, thank you everyone who's shared your updates. It's been great, and really happy to have you back, Dreamer. It was I think all of us kind of felt the pinch while you're out there, because there's just so much that you do, and it's really great to have you back here. So, and also safe. That's obviously the most important thing there too, with all that craziness going on. But yeah, I'm also very excited about the things that we're building. There's a lot of cool things happening now. We're at the stage now where we're able to spend a large part of our time creating fun things, and that's really what it's all about, is creating new and interesting things that will actually drive the activity in the game and the progression of the game. Things like PvE and the combat stuff that's happening, but also equipment and void hunts. And I have the privilege to sit on a few committees where we sort of have a lot of time that we talk about things that are coming down the pike, and there's some really cool things that I can't share, but I'm just really excited for the prospects, and I think everyone's going to love some of the things that Hubert is over there cooking up, and I'm excited to build them. That's the fun part for me, is trying to figure out how to take those and stick those requirements into a smart contract and have that work. So always challenging and fun, and excited to be here. So yeah, also feeling very stoked.
And last but not least, Hubert, which also means you're nominated to bullish us.
Whoa. This is weird being the last person. Yeah, lots of pressure. I think so. A few things that we didn't mention, that you guys should be aware of, but we did just release the Scholar Skill Codex, which I'm excited to have that out. It does mark the final basic class of the basic classes that exist right now, having its skill codex complete. So that means we will be moving on to advanced classes next, and excited to start doing that. We are making a lot of progress there, which is great. And also, super stoked. What was the word? Whatever new word we're using for excitement. For void hunts, we still have more to go with that, which is, as has been mentioned, we have kept Beetle locked up in his cave to keep working on those things, and it's coming along really well. A lot of things have kind of been revealed in the process of getting this set up, which is just helping us improve the combat system overall, which I'm excited about. And yeah, really looking forward to when we do get the boar hunts out and to see everybody give it a go. As far as I'm aware right now, I tuned it too hard, so I'm probably going to tune it down a little bit, but we'll see. There's still a little bit more to go before I can say
tune
for
it
sure
down.
if it's too hard.
It's not.
Yeah, there's still a couple mechanics that need to be put in, and then we'll know for sure. So, but yeah, along with all those things, we still have a lot of future things planned, of course, and it's always a juggling act trying to make sure that what we're working on currently is in a good shape, and then making sure we have time to be focusing on what's coming next as well, so there's not too much of a bottleneck happening, and that's always a challenge. But it also makes it very fun and keeps every day really interesting. So with all of that said, I am extremely bullish, as Pinecone likes to say, and hope y'all are doing great, and we'll be seeing you in Slack, or not Slack. Slack is where I see my team, where everyone see y'all here in Discord. All right, see you.
Bullish.
We're adding everyone to Slack.
Bullish.
Bullish. Thanks, guys.